Welcome back, ladies and gents. It's time to go into Visual Studio and start coding out our implementation plan. And the first thing that we had to do was change our text size from being ridiculously large down to something not so large for our menu. So our font small, which we should be using, is already set to 24. Okay then, let's go into our menu manager. I must be telling it to use the large one in there. Menu items using font small. That means I must have loaded up the big one from the very get-go, which is going to be here, font small. And that means another point for someone out there to be currently laughing at me, saying, I picked up on that one from the get-go, you foolish person. Yeah, I am. I'll take the admit on that one. Okay, so what else do we need to do? Not interact as a class yet. We need to load up another texture first. So into our characters here, and let's load up another texture, which we'll call SBR character reacts. And we'll binge in that region down, go down to here, wait, go away, and put in character reacts, and here we'll say SBR character, whoops, not attacks, that's what I already said, SBR character reacts, and then we should probably add it in to our content directory as well, so add existing item into our CS folder, and there's our character reacts. Alright, that's you taken care of. Next up, we had to go into our actor class and add in an enum for direction. Enum direction, which is going to be set here to, well, not set, it's going to have the values added of left and right. Then we need to put in our public direction called facing direction. There we go. That's now that one there done, and our actor class taken care of. Let's go into a player. What do we need to add into a player? Our next two states, which were walking and jumping. Then we need to add in a new part down here for movement, which was vector 2 jumping pose and a float for landing height. GHT. Let's put in some comments so we know what these ones are for. Jumping pause is can't use normal position, as this would also change the position of the shadow, of the actor's shadow. There we go. And our landing height, need to know where the landing of the jump is. There we go. Now our public player state is could be grouped into our movement, so I'm going to put that one down here as well. And we need to add in some more draw areas here, so let's put a space between height and width so we know we've got our width separate. Here we've got a walking and a jumping, or walk and jump. Jump. And their values were 124 and 66. Okay, that's our draw area regions done up. Let's go into our update call here and change it a little bit more. So it also wants to have on in our switch a case for player state.walking, and it calls move just before and break happens. That's pretty easy there. We'll put the other part in as well, which is player state jumping, and we'll put a break. There we go. Now this is going to get pretty complicated in here, and I want to be able to flip through all the different codes pretty easily, because we're going to need to backtrack and go between them all quite often. So we're going to put in another section here, which is region, idle and walking, hash and region, and down here we'll put region, jumping, hash and region. There we go. Now, before we call move, we need to check for input from our gamepad to see if we need to change ourselves over to the jumping state. So let's put in here, we'll put in the keyboard one first, if input helper dot was key pressed, and I'm going to set that one to keys.left shift. And then we'll comment it out. Okay, now we'll look at the gamepad. If input helper dot new gamepad, or not new gamepad, we'll just say was button pressed, and which player index we're passing in, this player index, and which buttons are we going to check for? Button dot A will be the jump button. Feel free to change that and mix it up however you'd like to. Here we go. What do we need to do? We'll set our landing height equal to the current Y position that we're at. So we haven't changed our Y position, but we will be shortly. We're just going to set it like there. We'll set our jumping position equal to our current position, so that way they're starting off from the same spot. And then we'll set our speed, which I forgot to add in above. Speed.y is equal to -5. -5. I was going to type out 5, and anyway. Let's add in some speed, which I forgot to do in movement here a second ago, which is vector to speed. -5 is going to be our jump speed. Jump speed. Now we need to set our state and our texture draw area. So state equal to player state dot jumping. Our texture is going to be equal to game1 dot reacts. Our frame X is going to be 0, so we want the first one there. Our frame Y on our jumping of the reacts is whereabouts? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Equal to 6. There we go. Our draw width is equal to draw width jumping, or draw width jump. Our origin character is a new vector 2. Whereabouts is it? Draw width divided by 2, and draw height, which we should also set just above here, equal to draw height normal. Origin, and next after we've done that, we've got everything we need to set the draw area. Set draw area. Done. Now we don't, if we've just pressed the jump button, we don't want to go down to move, so we're going to put in return. Because we've already set the state here, and if we go into move, let's just get rid of that F there because it's bugging me and bugging the compiler. If we set the draw area and then we go into move, it's going to call animate idle or animate walking, which is going to give us the wrong draw area completely. I'm going to have a bit of a frame mix-up of a wrong picture, which will look kind of weird and strange and not right because it's going to be on the wrong texture and blah, blah. It's not going to look good. So that is you taken care of. Let's look at the jumping update. What do we need to do here? Well, we needed to make sure we're moving in the air. So let's update our position. Jumping pos plus equal to speed. Our position dot x is going to be equal to jumping pos dot x. That way the shadow will follow us along the ground and it will only follow us along the x of the jumping pos, which is pretty cool. And then we need to make our speed be affected by gravity. Speed dot y plus equal to 0.3 f. Slow y, let's put slow vertical. Speed down because of gravity. So it'll actually, if we don't set the speed, that means we're just going to press the jump and go and just float off into the air, like we're on the moon, except the moon would kind of pull us back down. Maybe we're just in space and there's no gravity. Okay, let's stop trying to think of somewhere how we could pull off that. And put if jumping pos dot y is bigger than or equal to our landing height. So we're checking if we're going to land now. Landing height. What do we need to do? Have we landed? What do we need to do here? Well, we need to reset our idle graphic. Now, we need to make sure that we don't need to set our position, do we? No, not at all, because we're not going to be doing that anymore. It's not going to be jumping anymore, because state is going to change that one over and give us the idle graphic animation again. We'll set speed dot y equal to 0 to make sure we don't go flying around anymore. And we'll break from there, because if we're getting there, then we don't want to come to the next step, which is animate jump. Passing in game time, which it'll give me an error on, and if we are moving, then we'd better go ahead and constrain ourselves to the screen as well. Constrain to screen there. No more compile errors except for those two. Build, what do we got? Just those two? Build started, yeah, just those two. That's fine. Let's fix them up. Now check it out, we've got this, it's getting kind of messy. So we can just go idle, hide, jumping, hide. Which one do we want to look at? We want to look at our idle one. Okay, there we go. Nice and easy. Regions are great. At least I love them. I think they're lots of fun. Let's change our move method here. All it does at the moment is animates the idle, but we need it to do a lot more than that. So let's keep that in there. We'll delete it. We'll delete it. We'll write it up again from scratch. Let's put in a region X movement. And we'll better end off that region. And just so I can copy paste, slap one in for the Y movement as well. Alrightio. Why do you want a region? Because these are going to be pretty big. So we get input and adjust accordingly. Which is if input helper dot, let's do the keyboard first, was key pressed. Well, actually not was key pressed, we're going to do an is key held here. Is key held keys dot left. Not left shift, just left. Then I'll comment you out. Alrightio, let's do our gamepad thumbstick to the left, which is if input, why am I still commenting? If input helper dot new gamepad state, which gamepad state are we looking at? We're looking at over to an int, our player index, p index, closing u, dot thumbsticks, dot left, dot x is less than negative movement threshold. There we go. So if we've taken it over past our limit of x, our dead zone, then we need to do some things, which is going to be speed dot x equal to -3. So make it move backwards to the left. We better set our facing direction. Facing equal to direction dot left, because we're moving to the left. Make our character face left. Our state is going to be set to walking. Player state dot walking. Okay, and our draw width equal to draw width walk. Goodo. Else, if are we now facing to the right or not facing? Have we now pressed go right? Copy and paste. Which would be bigger than the movement. And just quickly before I forget, doing in the keyboard as well for you, just in case you want keyboard controls. Right. So if you've tapped it over to the right, then we can just pretty much steal all of this here, because it works pretty well, and put speed equal to 3, direction is equal to right. Still going to be walking, and it's still going to be a draw width. Else, if there is no movement keys pressed, or no movement input being done, let's set our speed dot x equal to 0. Done. Right, yeah, that's our x movement done. Now instead of typing all that out again, I'm going to copy you and replace it and just fix things up so it works for the y instead. Y does that. Input helper keys dot up. But instead of this one, we want to check our left thumbsticks. Y is less than, well actually up is going to be bigger than, isn't it? Bigger than our dead zone of movement threshold. Then we better check for our speed.y. I want it to move slower up and down than it does horizontally. You'll see why when we actually get this program up and running. Our facing direction, we don't need to worry about you. Our state does want to be walking, and our draw width does want to be walk. Our input helper wants to be down here in case anyone else is following along. You know what we should be doing here with our draw width? We should also be setting our draw height equal to draw height normal. We'll copy this whole part here and move it down, paste it in there. Now down, if we're pressing it down on the thumbstick, then that means our Y value is going to be less than negative the movement threshold, so past our dead zone. Our Y is going to be negative, and everything else is going to be the same there, except our if statement needs to change that one over to a Y. Let's quickly take our draw height line and copy it into our X movement as well. There we go. Fixes up our X and our Y. Look at that, nice and hidden. Hey, I love regions. Now what do we need to do? Well, we need to check out if we're not moving at all, or if we are moving, which animation do we want to do? So we'll say if speed, well not X or Y, just check if speed is equal to vector2 dot 0, then what have we got to do? If it is equal to 0, then we've got to make character animate idle. So we better make sure our frame Y is currently set to 0, and our state is going to be set to idle. Our speed is already set. Our draw width, let's set our draw height equal to draw height normal, and our draw width equal to draw width idle. Anything else we need to do? We should set our origin character equal to new vector2 draw width divided by 2 and draw height. Boom. What else do we need to do? We can just call animate idle. Game time. Now we're not going to set our draw area here. That's going to be done inside of animate idle. And that is all we need to do there. If we are not going to be speed 0, so that means we're moving, that means we are moving, and we better put in some workings. So we'll make sure our position updates itself. Position plus equal to speed. We need to constrain to screen. Strain to screen. And we also need to animate walking. Animate walking. Here, game time, close, you done. But look at this. If we look at all the things we've done here in our 0 thing, or our speed or nothing, our idle animation, we've had to set the draw height and set the draw width. But down here, we don't have to do that because we've already done it in our X and Y movement. We've set our draw width and draw height there, and we don't need to set our frame Y because that's taken care of inside of the animate walking itself. Alright, that's you good. And if we are also moving, then we should also remember to get our layer depth. Here we go. And we'll put that with the movement code. There we go. Okay, what else do we need to do? Well, let's make up for that other method which I keep talking about, which is constrain to screen. Private void I'm just going to copy it. Probably going to type it out incorrectly. I can see myself doing that. Bet you can too. And I'll battle with the keyboard until I get it working. Instead we can just do this. And you know the code for this one. Don't let the player go off the screen or out of play bounds, which is if position.x is less than in level dot play. Why? What am I doing in level for? No. We're doing if position.x is less than camera.position minus game1.screen width. And we set it to make sure it's equal to the limit that it can be at. That's our left. Then we check for the right. Camera.position, whoops, .x. 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 There we go. And in our other case, we check for the right. So we'll do is bigger than, and we'll put a plus here. And a plus there. That's going to be our horizontal one taken care of. Now we'll check for our vertical. If position.y is less than, we'll check the top first. In level dot playbounds dot top. Boom. Copy you. Paste it. Finish off the line and set it to be equal to. And then we'll do the same for bottom. Not going into detail on this one. We covered it in the last video before. I think it was in the layer depth one. And it's pretty simple anyway. That's constrained to screen taken care of. We'll put a summary in for what it does. You may as well put that there. I was going to copy these two, but we'll just write a new one. Does not let the player leave the screen or vertical play bounds. Great, that's him taken care of. Constraint to screen's done. And what else do we need to do? We need to add in some animations. We've got our reset idle graphic working. We've got our draw area set. We've got our animate idle already done. So let's put in private void animate walking, which takes in the game time and calls it GT. And a private void animate jumping, taking in game time, calling it GT. Okay, let's do our animate walk. What do we need it to do here? Well, we've already got our draw width set. Our origin is already set. Actually, we didn't set the origin in those other ones, did we? Let's put it here. Origin character equal to new vector 2 draw width divided by 2 draw height. Heck, we can nearly give it origin, just like a property to pull that one there off, or a method to always set it, instead of typing it all the time, but I'm not going to. Now, just in case, we are coming from an animation which doesn't have Y, frame Y, set to 1 or 2. This is where our cool bit is. If frame Y not equal to 1 and frame Y is not equal to 2, then we need to set frame Y equal to 1, frame Y equal to 1. There we go. So that one there is going to make sure our Y range is always in the correct range for our animate walking. Now we'll just put in our animation for the timing. Current frame time plus equal to, casting it over to a float, game time dot elapsed game time dot total seconds. There we go. And we can now say if current frame time is bigger than or equal to actor dot frame rate, close you, and we'll put in an if statement bounds there and our else bounds. Our top one here is what are we going to do if we've just gone over our limit, or actually this one here doesn't need to be there. Go away, you're completely wrong. Ha! Whoopsie-doozy. Current frame time is equal to 0. Our frame X gets ++. Now here's where I meant to put in that extra if, or the else I should say, if frame Y is equal to 1. What do? We do our if frame X is bigger than 7, because there's 7 frames in the animation of walking in X. We'll say frame X equal to 0, and frame Y wants to be ++. And we'll change this guy here to an else. Again, I put that in the wrong spot, I'm sorry. Did I? Yeah, I did. You go away. You want to be an else. There we go. Else, that means frame Y must be equal to 2. Frame X is still going to be ++, and our frame Y is going to be -. Rightio, that is our animate of the walking done, and we can just double check it. Current frame time, yep, +ing X, making sure we're in the right Y, and we can assume it's 2 because up here we said if it's 1 or 2. If it's not 2, then it's going to be set to 2. If it's outside 1 or 2, it's going to be set to 1. And if it's getting down to here and it's not equal to 1, well, therefore we know it's 2 because we set it just here a second ago. So we'll go there. Actually, it would be less than a second ago on computer time, wouldn't it? And what do we need to do? Now we need to animate our jump, which is a pretty easy one. We can say current frame time plus equal to, casting it over to a float, game time dot elapsed game time dot total seconds. If, make sure we've gone over our limit, current frame time is bigger than or equal to actor.framerate. There we can say current frame time is equal to 0 and update our x. Our frame x plus plus if frame x bigger than 5 and frame x equal to 5, and we can call return, because what we don't need to do is come at what's wrong with you. Current, there we go. We'll call return here because if we're getting down to here, we don't need to go and set draw area, which is a line we forgot to put into our animate walking. There we go. Now we'll quickly add it into animate walking as well. Down, down, down. You've set up X. There we go. Alrighty. Oh, that is everything taken care of there. Let's check out our draw method. Move can hide. Animations are all good. Where's my draw? Here's my draw. Draw the character. This needs to change. Righty-o. What I'm going to show you is without if we do this if statement incorrectly first. Let's say we do. We need to know if we're facing left or right. So we put in draw character. Facing left or right. If facing dir equal to direction dir, let's do left first. Hey, let's do right first. What do we do here? If we're facing to the right, then we say sb.draw. We use number 6 again, and we use our texture. We use camera.getScreen position, and we use this current position. And then we use our color. Whoa, what am I doing? I'm following the wrong one. Oopsie-doosey. Number 6, where are we using? We're using our draw area. Then we need to use a color. We're going to use color.white. Wheat. Nope, white. Here we go. Rotation 0f, vector 2, origin character, float scale 1f, sprite effects, not using anything because all of our text, our sprite sheets are drawn facing to the right. And our layer depth, we're using our layer depth. And finish it off. We'll copy it all. And we'll say else. We must be facing to the left. We can control V that in. And what do we want here? Go back Q, pull you up a little further. And all we need to change is our sprite effects dot flip horizontally. Alright, now we'll face left or right depending on which way we're facing in our character. So let's get rid of you, and didn't need them. Don't know why I put them in there. And let's move you back there. Anything else that I'm missing? I can't think of anything. Let's press play. And we'll build first. Let's press play anyway, don't tell us. There were build errors. Animate jump doesn't exist in the current context. Why not? Alright, let's change it to animate jumping. And let's build it now. Hey, title screen, still using the big font. Should it be using the small font now? It is! Ah, so much nicer. Great, begin game. What do we got? Our character's face is off to the left. He can walk around, and he's... what have I got? Well, my up and down is wrong for my thumbstick because I'm just foolish, and my jump isn't using my jumping position because our draw's not. And our draw animation is also kind of quonky there. It's doing that problem that I said it was going, that I said it wasn't going to be doing. So let's close you off. Go into our draw. Let's fix up our first off the move, which was the Y movement is incorrect. If you are less than that, and if you are bigger than that, rightio, that'll be okay. I looked at less and thought bigger, and less than less. So no, foolish me. That'll be our movement fixed up there correctly. Our move code is good. What was the other problem we had in the animations? Was the walk. What's wrong with you? If it's one and... well, it can't be not of both of them. Sure it can be. Sure it can be. Frame Y equal to 1. What's happening here? Why isn't this working? Frame X if frame Y is that. We add over. Oh, here. Whoops. Ha! If frame X bigger than 7, then we do all that. Okay, that'll be our animate walking taken care of. And let's make sure that is all good first before we jump into getting our drawing correctly. Up and down is working correctly. Left, check out the animation. It does the full animation and he flips himself around as we walk from side to side. But our jump, there's that weird thing. Check it out. Whoop, boop, boop, boop. And there's a bit of a pause before he lands. It's got a bit of an extra frame there. It's because the jump doesn't finish the landing the animation finishes before it lands, and that's another reason why we wanted to do it this way as well. Let's go down to back up, I should say, to our draw call, and add in another one here. Are we jumping? If player state equal to player state.jumping. I said player state, it should just be state. And it should be double equals. To check for a comparison. We'll just copy this guy here. We'll paste it all in there. And then we'll put in an else for this one. Okay, if we're jumping, then we're going to use which position? This jumping position. There we go, that's all we need to change. That's all we need to change there. It's if are we jumping, then we'll use our jumping position. Else, we are not jumping. Then we just use the standard position on the ground. And we'll press play. And begin the game. Alright, walking around as normal and press and jump. Whoopa, whoopa, hey, the shadow stays on the ground where it's supposed to. Just what we wanted to happen. Alright. And I'll stop jumping around like a silly nilly now. Finish that off. There was one more thing I wanted to cover in this, but I can't remember what it was. What was it? What was it? Oh, yes, the animation on that drawing of the walk. Look at this. The idle speed's kind of good. Good enough for what I want. But the walking one, it's too slow. I want to speed it up. I'm going to speed that up by coming to our animations inside our animate walking. And there's one little spot which we change for that, and that is going to be our, which one? We can either do this one or this one. It's up to you which one you want to do. But in my case, I want to change, I don't want to touch our frame rate, so I'm going to add them here. I want it to run 50% faster, times 1.5 F. Make it animate a little faster. That's what the 1.5 F is for. Let's press play, and it'll run, the animation will be running 50% faster now. Boop, 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 for the walk. Hey, that's better. That's much nicer. And we can jump. Jump still runs the same. If you wanted to, you could slow the jump animation down so he lands perfectly. But I kind of like it, how he's just preparing himself for the landing there. Alright, that's everything we need to cover in this video here, guys. So, I'm going to sign out of here, and in the next one, what I'm going to do, let's go back into Whiteboard and back onto the implementation plan. So now we've got our player setup done, we've got him walking and him jumping, just like we said we would. Alright, combos are next. Punch, punch, kick, and the jump kick, both of them. And then after we've got that done, we can start beating somebody up with it. That's great. Rightio, I'll see you in the next implementation plan, guys, for player combos. Bye-bye.